Today we're going to make a bookshelf. I've been wanting to do this one for a while. It's going to be small but mighty. Let's make a bookshelf. I'll see you guys inside. All right, like I said, we're going to make a bookshelf today. Small but mighty. The reason we make it small is because it doesn't use as much material. So we're going to make a bookshelf. Come on in real close and take a look at this. This is a typical drawing that I would start almost every project with, because until you can see it, you can't make it. So this is a bookshelf. This is the gusset, and this is the base that the books will sit on. And we're going to make this, I think I've got a couple of different ways we're going to make this. And in order to speed up the process, we're going to use all of our professional tools. But this whole project today that we're going to make could be made, if you go back and watch our video on how to make a tool tray with basic hand tools, the way we made this tool tray, you could use those same principles and those same processes to make this bookshelf. But I want to speed it up a little bit because there's a lot I want to get through. So let's get right to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by making this part of the bookshelf is going to be a pan, and then we're going to make a left and a right gusset. We'll get to the bookend in a few minutes. So here's the pan. It's a 5.5 by 10 inch shelf, and right here I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we typically mark things in the shop, and these are just ways that this project will never be clearer in your mind than it is when you're right here, you're making it, you're notching it, you're thinking about it. It's never going to be more clear in your mind. So while it is that fresh and that clear in your mind, go ahead and mark it. And then if you get a phone call or you started at the end of the day and you come back tomorrow, you don't have to go back and start from scratch. You can look at your instructions and you can pick right up where you left off. So right here I've got 3 different ways that we would typically mark things in a shop. So a lot of this stuff for the folks that are going to be making these things at home, and also there's something that I have to be realistic about. A lot of you may never pick up a snip or a hand seamer or a hammer, but you may be following along at what we're doing here just to acquaint yourself with the process. And I like that. I love that, because if there's one thing that we all need to do is we all need to become more capable. We all need to become more self-sufficient. We all need to become more aware of the world around us. I would like all of you to become more capable and have a marketable skill. So AI may be coming down the road. We don't know. Who knows? And there's always going to be a spot for somebody who can show up, make something with their hands, and install it. That's going to be a long way down the road. So I want you to follow along and learn about how important it is to become aware of the process and how we develop a pattern, how we fabricate a pattern, and how we end up with a finished product. So I'm glad you stopped by today. So just because you may never pick up the tools, I still want you to know you're welcome. I'm very glad you stopped by, because part of this is the mental process of fabrication. We have to be able to look at something in its finished state and reverse engineer it back to, what did that look like when that was a flat sheet of metal? What did that look like? This is something that we made just the other day. And this has the impression that it's a bar of stainless steel. And it is not. We have a customer that installs faucets, and this is a block-off plate. Now, sometimes we'll make one hole right in the middle, and we make those holes as we go. But this looks like a bar of stainless. But what it is a small 1/4 inch deep pan. I hope you can see that. I'm just going to hold this like this. So what we've done is we've made a little 1/4-inch pan, and we bent the corners around and welded them and finished them off. Here at our shop, about half of what we do is welding and fabrication, and half of what we do is sheet metal. So this gives you an opportunity. I just wanted you to see, this is a typical day. This is what we made. Looks like a bar of stainless, but it's actually just a pan. So this gives you a chance to see something. That's something that we make and we sell those. So what we're going to do today is we are going to make a pan. So the first part of our bookshelf is a pan. So come on in good and tight. I want to try to explain this diagram to you. You are always X. X is always you. So if you look at this X, this is a bend up toward X. This is also a bend up toward X. And this bend up toward X here, up toward X, and then also we've drawn the hem on there. So we have a 1-inch flange, a 1-inch 90 that's going to come up on this 1-inch scribe. I'll try to flash this around in some different directions so you can see the scribe line. And then this is a 1-inch flange across the back, 1 inch down the side, and the front is 1 inch plus a 1/2 inch that we're going to fold into a hem. So you can see we've already notched out a notch here. That's 1 inch by 1 inch. This is 1.5 inches because it's 1 inch, and then the 1/2 inch hem. But we've also left a little tab here. So now that I've got one side done, let's do the second one. And if you haven't watched our other videos, whenever we're notching, you always protect yourself against the part that you're removing, the drop. We'll call that the drop. But you'll notice I made this cut first. Now I'm going to come over here and make this cut next. Because if you can see the piece on your final cut, it can get to your eyes. It has a clear path to your eye if you can see it. But look at this. It all depends on the sequence. Right now, my snip is covering the drop. I'm still going to hold it, but when I finish the cut, it can't come up. So, just so we get that straight, let's do one wrong. Make sure we know this is wrong. See, I'm covering the drop with my snip. I'm doing this one wrong. I'm intentionally, so you can see the wrong way to do it. Look, automatically my thumb already covers the drop. So now I'm going to come right here, and you can see that without my thumb covering the drop, when I finish this cut, this piece could come up and could get into a place that we don't want it to get to. All right, so we've got that notched. Now we're going to make our 2 gussets, and we've gone and marked them left and a right. So they were both cut the same. And on this one, if you want to know what we're making our project today out of 26 gauge galvanized. That's about 19 thousandths. And then we're going to make, so to make the pan, the top of our bookshelf, it's 8 inches by 12 inches. So it's 8 by 12. That means that 8 by 12 is going to finish up with a 5.5 by 10. So 10 from here to here, 11, that 1 inch, 12 the other inch, 5.5 plus 1, 6.5, plus another 1, 7.5, plus the other 1/2 inch hem. That's our 8 inch total. That's how we came up with a cut size of 8 by 12, 26 gauge. So our finish will be 5.5 by 10. Our 2 gussets that are going to go on the sides that are going to complete our bookshelf, and they're going to have a flange that we can screw to the wall. This will be more clear once we bend it up. They both get cut the same size, and then we book match them so that we make sure we make a right and a left. These two pieces are 6 3/8 square. That's 6 3/8 because back to our shelf is 5.5 inches wide. This is 5.5. There you go. There's 5.5. And so our gusset is going to be slightly less than that because we're going to put it underneath our shelf. So it's going to be slightly less than 5.5. I'm going to match these two ends up. See the difference right here? 1/8 of an inch difference. So this is a 5.5. This is 5 3/8. Plus, we're going to add the 1 inch that we're going to turn for our wall flange. So it's a little less than the shelf, the pan. So it's going to fit inside. I think once we get it made up, it's going to be more clear. So this is one way that we can mark. I made you an entire drawing of what this project looks like. Or we can mark each individual bend. This is going to be an up, up, and that's also going to be an up. Let's go ahead and mark that. On this one's a hem, so we're going to mark that hem up. And whenever it's our choice, whenever we get to make the decision, we're going to make all of our operations the same way so that we don't have to flip the piece over in the break. So that's an up and an up. That's also an up. That's going to be a hem up on that 1/2 inch line. So we can spell it out. We can put up, up, up. Then here's the last way. This was a full drawing. That's the whole pan right there. Or we can call out each individual bend separately. This right here, X is always U. So you can see that's a bend up toward X. This bend is up toward X. And here's the hem up toward X. Now, I've drawn this with permanent marker because really what we're making here is a visual aid. So on your project, you can mark it with, this is a water-based marker. If you mark it with a marker like this, you can erase it with water. Now, one of the things I want to do here, I've already notched these just to speed it up, but this is a 1 inch flange and a 1 inch flange, so that's a 1 by 1 notch. And then we added a 1/2 inch across here, just so we don't have a sharp edge on the front of our gusset. But then this is what we're actually, this is our bookshelf right here. These 3 pieces. This is our bookshelf. But I'm also going to show you one more way to make a gusset. This gusset is slightly different than that one. And this is one more way that you can make the gusset. And so this one I haven't notched yet. So I want you to follow through the whole notch. So one of the things we do, I'm going to go over to the shear, or sometimes called Choppy McChopperson. And I want to cut this off. But I don't want to find myself leaning over the shear looking for this line and try to hit that line. If you do, it's very often that you can't find the line, and sometimes you find the wrong line, and then you shear off the hem that you want. So I'm showing this as an example because this is a different gusset than this. This is also an example. Keep in mind, this is our bookshelf. Ta-da! All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to check this out. We talked about snips before. Right now, I want to cut this on this line. Now, I don't know if you can see. Even if you can't see it, I can see it. So what I'm going to do, in order that we can cut that on that line, I'm going to take my red snips, and I'm going to come right here. Can you get in close and see? I'm just going to keep moving around because maybe you will get a flash and you'll be able to see. So I'm going to make the smallest notch with my red snips. I'm going to hold this here. Can you see that? See, I've made a small little notch. I made that notch right on that line. So this one's red. Our next notch is going to be green. We're going to go to this side and we're going to make a green notch. It's going to be small. It doesn't take much. If you look at it, it didn't take much. See that right there? So now what I can do is, let's say this block of wood was my bottom shear blade. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the shear. I'm going to slide this into the shear. Can you see what's happening right there? Those two little notches I made are actually contacting the back of the shear blade. And so now when I go, I'm not just holding a piece on the shear and looking for the line. Out here where the line is very visible and I can see it, I'm going to make a left and a right. It's important that you make a left and a right. The right is on the right, left is on the left. That's pretty good. So now what we can do is when we go to the shear, all we got to do is pull it back against that bottom shear blade, and then we're going to cut it off. So come on over here, let's do that. All right, so here are the two gussets that we're going to use on our shelf. I cut these off while you weren't looking. Just trying to expedite, speed up the process. So now we made a right nick and a left nick, and that gave us a little burr on the back. Now we're going to insert this into the shear. Can you hear that? Can you hear it stop? Listen. Let's do one and a second. Now I'm holding this. I'm just pulling back a little bit of tension against that bottom blade. Now, I don't have to look down here to see where that mark is. I know where it is. Look, we were able to just cut it right, and we got it right on the line every time. We're not going to miss it. All right, so now let's finish this one up. This is one of the ones that's an example. I'm going to make this gusset this way. Notice which way the piece is, right? My snips are covering it. Don't give that piece a chance to get to you. All right, and then this one is, we're done. We're done marking. These are our two examples. Let's go over to the break and bend up our bookshelf. The pan and the two gussets. Then when we put them together, you know what we got. Let's go to the break. So on our way over to the break, I wanted to show you what we just made earlier today. These are pontoon extensions for a houseboat. Sometimes people build a swim platform off the back of their houseboat, and so that the back end of the houseboat does not sag into the water, we make these pontoon extensions. So you can see this thing is 6 foot tall. It's 120. It's 120 thousandths, 50-52 aluminum. These are the end caps. So this is just a protective layer of PVC that the manufacturer puts on the sheets so that when we're scuffling it around the shop, we don't scratch it. So this is what this looks like. So this end cap will get welded onto there. I'm not going to put it in place because it'll fall in the hole. And I don't have my earplugs on. That way you don't have to hear me scream when it does that. Not part of our bookshelf, but I thought you might be curious, might be interesting. All right, now we're on our bookshelf. So the first thing we're going to do, our sequence of operation is always do the thing that causes the least amount of change in the product. So the thing that's going to cause the least amount of change is that 1/2 inch hem in the front. We're going to bend that over. Like I said, if you go to our tool tray video, you can make this bookshelf with the same tools. Now you can see what I did is I folded over and then I flattened it out. If you look really close, that's a teardrop. That's where your strength is at. That teardrop is very important. If we just smash this flat, then we lose the rigidity that we get from the teardrop shape. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on our reading glasses. Then we're going to bend this up on this bend. All right, I like it. We can do another one right here. When this is flat like a table, that's when this is a 90-degree bend. This is the handle you use to clamp your metal into the brake. This is the handle used to perform the bending function. This is the bending leaf, L-E-A-F, like a tree. This is the nose bar, like nose and bar, like a bar of gold. All right, so we made 2 bends. Let's go ahead and make our 3rd bend. I'm just putting the nose bar right on our scribe line. All right. Man, this thing's looking great. So we're going to have to finish this up. Since it's a pan, we're going to finish it in the pan brake. Okay, so this is our first example. So again, order a sequence. Always do the first thing. See this hem right here? If I would have bent the 90 first, I wouldn't be able to go in now and bend the hem. So oftentimes there's an order of the way you put your bends in. First thing we're going to do is the thing that affects the piece in the least amount. We get to decide, so we're going to bend everything up since it's up to us. Now this one, oh boy, this is getting tricky right here. This one is a hook. This is one of our example pieces here. So this is going to be all the way over. Oh, look at this. I'm going to put something in there so I don't flatten it out all the way. Look at that. Can you see that? I didn't flatten it down all the way because I clamped it down on something. Now, here's our last bend. All right. That's one example. Let's bend up our other example. Same thing. We're going to bend our hem first because it affects the piece in the least. All right, now we've got our hem in there. We are going to bend our 1 inch. This is one of our example legs. A different way you could do it. It all depends on what you're looking for. I want to get it just right. After all, it is an example. So all of our bends were all up. We had an up, and a hem up. Still, that's our example. Now, we're done horsing around. This is the real thing right here. Said hem up. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to flatten that hem out, but we don't want to get it so flat that we flatten it all the way out. We still want that teardrop. Now, we got the hem in there. This tells us up. So we're going to bend it up on that line. There's our mark. There's up. Up again. Man, this thing looks good. Here's our hem. So since we're the ones that are designing our bookshelf, I made the gussets symmetrical. The reason I made them symmetrical, because you could make a gusset that had a dimension here and then a longer dimension here or a shorter dimension here. But if you make it symmetrical, it's a lot easier to get it right. It's a lot harder to get it wrong, because look, you almost can't bend it up wrong. This distance is the same as this one. And I'm up toward X, up toward X. So that's just another example of where you can do yourself a favor, give yourself a fighting chance to get it right. If it's up to you. Sometimes the customer says, I want it really long down the wall and short at the bookshelf. And got to give the customer what they want. So look at that. We made a left and a right. Because this is the real deal. Now let's go over to the box and pan, finish off our last bend. Then we can start putting our bookshelf together. All right, now we are back at the box and pan break. It's called a box and pan break because it makes boxes and pans. Box and pan break. That's a regional name. This could be called a finger break. What we're making, we just realized that the lessons that we're making, they're going all over the world. So some of these names that I use are the names that I've been using for 44 years on the west coast of the United States. So as you can see here, when our grandkids come over, they find all of Grandpa's magnets. This is the hard one. This one right here, man, this is when this thing, well, I can't even get the piece off. There's a piece stuck on there. And so that's pretty much all of my magnets right there. They go through the shop and find them all. There's a couple right there. So let's use our box and pan break and finish off our shelf. We're going to come right here, clamp it on that line. All right, don't let the handle sneak up on you. with these separate fingers, and we can adjust. We have enough fingers to fill in all the spaces. This is 48 inches. So no matter what size box, see, here's a 4 and a 3, here's a 5, here's a 3. So with the combination of fingers that we have, we can accommodate every pan. Look at that. We finished the last leg of our pan. Now I want to file these corners down a little bit. Whenever you use a file, you only cut on the push. Don't drag a file. A file and a hacksaw blade are both made the same way. The teeth lean forward like a linebacker in a football game, which means if you approach them from behind, you can tip them over, but they're more difficult to tip over if you catch them from the front. So all the cutting edges on a file all lean forward. I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but they all lean forward. So you only cut with a file on the push. You push, lift, push. Don't drag a file backwards across the work. I'll come to your house, and boy, I snore like everything. You don't want that. Well, my wife says I snore. All right. Let's come on back in here. Oh, you know what I want to do? Here's our Whitney punch. We are going to come over here. I love the Whitney punch. This is a number 5 Whitney punch, a handheld punch. Isn't that better than drilling? That's our example. Here is our other example. This comes with a series of dies. Number 5 Whitney punch, like Mount Whitney or Eli Whitney. I put marks on here. Left and a right. We could take more time, measure the location of all these holes. But we're not going to do that. So let's look at our shelf. The back that goes against the wall doesn't have a hem on it. The front you can see what I have here. Here's my gusset. I'm going to push this tight to the wall. Let's close this up a little bit. See that opening right there? Let's just close that up. There's the front. This is the back. All right. So, what we can do here is we can put 2 rivets in the side, and depending on your project, if you didn't want to put the rivets in the side, the way we turned a flange on the top, you could actually put the rivets into the top. So it all depends on where you would rather see them. If we were going to make this bookshelf here at the shop, we'd use a spot welder. This is a small handheld spot welder, and we could spot weld that. But maybe you're not ready to go out and spend several $100s on a small handheld, or the giant Buzz back there. Buzz will knock holes in stuff. So here's what we're going to do. Let's put a rivet in right here. Anytime you're drilling a hole, you always want to apply as much pressure as you reasonably can and turn as few RPMs as you can. Because if you're not making shavings, you're not cutting. And if you're not cutting, you're causing friction. What's a byproduct of friction? That's right. Heat. Heat. Always make sure you put yourself in a very safe place. So I'm pushing as hard as I can reasonably push. So if you're not cutting, all you're producing is heat. You can actually work harden the metal. It's like heat treating. Can you see how that went on there? And then we're going to do the same thing here. We punched 2 holes on the wall. Let's put that one in there. Oh, yeah. You know what? This was one of our examples. Our example is, looks like I made both of our examples as lefts. So here's how you take a pop rivet out. All the pressure that you can apply and the fewest amount of RPMs. With a rivet, so what's happening here is the rivet is turning. So I might have to approach it at several different angles till it finally catches. Again, keep yourself safe on these rivets. All right. So what I want you to do is look at this intersection. See where the gusset comes up and meets the shelf? See this little space right here? With this one, we actually built that space into the bracket. So it makes the gusset end up closer. And actually, if we held this up and we put the rivets in this way, we could make that come out exactly where we want it. So I want you to just get a visual picture of how this all intersects right here at the corner. Then we would put our rivets in. But that's because we built that space in. So I want to show you. There's that space. You see that? So I'll show you one more time. So now our gusset comes up and everything intersects at the same point at the front of the shelf because we built this offset into the gusset. This one was easier to make. Let's look at the difference. See the difference? We have this space right here. It's just a visual. It's not a strength thing. It's just a visual. So we've done that one. And now here is, so we've gone through this example with the offset notch. And now we've done this one where we bent a hook. See where it says a hook right there? So this one would be, let's see, this is the front. I want to make sure, I'm just trying to get this around. So here we go. There's the hook. Watch how that hook engages the shelf. Do you see that right there? Now the hook is coming around through the bottom of the shelf. So this would work out really good if you didn't have a pop riveter, you could actually grab your hand seamers and you could flatten this down. Pretend I'm a chomp, 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 flattening it down. So just imagine that's really flat right now. And look, we built the offset into this one too. So now this is what your bookshelf could look like when everything intersects at the same corner. But we can put one rivet in here or none, because there's no way, once we screw this bracket to the wall, that shelf cannot go down. It's captured inside that hook. That's the reason we put that ruler in there when we flattened that hook, because we knew we were going to come back and assemble our bookshelf this way. So here's the hook example. Here's the example with the notch, where everything intersects at the same corner. All right, those can get out of our life. Oh, so we got our left and our right. Don't go anywhere. Don't. Looking good, looking good. I'm still here. All right, I'm back. All right, I'm a sheet metal guy, so I love sheet metal. Sheet metal is fun. Look at some of this stuff we've made. All of these things are in other lessons. But look at this. I'm a sheet metal guy. Sheet metal is fun. We all know that. But let's take the two gussets that we made for our shelf. Really? See, there's our shelf. Ta-da. Bada boom, bada bing. But I know what some of you are thinking. You guys are thinking, wouldn't it be nice if he would make something with wood? It's going to be pretty rare, but we're going to use this wood. Look at this. So now we've gone through all the trouble to make these brackets. I know what you're thinking. You clicked on this because it said sheet metal was fun. Here I am using wood. But look, maybe you don't want a sheet metal shelf. Maybe you want a wooden shelf. Wouldn't that be nice? So you can see, here's our flanges. We could screw this to the wall, have a nice wood shelf. Or we could do what we all came here to do. Make a sheet metal bookshelf. So let's get right back to where we were before we went off on our two auxiliary gussets. This one's got a hook. This one has the staggered notch. Look at that. Okay. I don't know what you guys think, but this is going along nice. Got to see those metal shavings coming off. If they're not coming off, you're not making a hole. All right, look at that. There's our bookshelf. I just covered up our holes, but we have the cure for that. Bam! Bang! Zoom. 2 more holes. So, all right, let me show you what we're going to do. Look at that. Just take a look at that for a second. All right, here we are. It's come down to it. We've made a pan. We've added our gussets, a left and a right, and we've installed them on our pan. We're going to put this thing right here. We're going to make it level. Look at that. So now we have a nice little bookshelf. We can put things on it like the pocket watch my dad gave me. The smallest, tiniest wood plane ever. Among my dad's hobbies, he was a watch repairman and a clock collector. This is a railroad grade watch, very high grade. That bolt and nut, when my dad would take something apart, he'd put the washer, if there was one, and the nut back on the bolt. So my dad put those together. He's been gone 19 years. And I'll never take that nut off that bolt. So it means a lot to me that it stays on there because he put it on there. But look at that. Look at that beautiful little shelf. All right, one last thing I want to do. All right, so we're almost at the end of the lesson. Once you saw that bookshelf, what I want to do is I want to encourage you to think and to create. And so my daughter-in-law, Holly, gave me this little car that she played with when she was a little girl. And so I wanted to display it in a way that I could see it. And so if you look right here, this is a pan. This is a 3-sided pan. And then on this piece on the wall, I actually turned a little flange out right here. And then I spot welded the back plate to the 3-sided pan. And I made it at an angle. She also gave me the V8 insignia. So I cut this out with the Unishear. The Unishear is in one of our other videos, probably a grab bag of tools. So now I wanted you to see this is an alternate way to make a shelf. This is a thicker material. This is 18 gauge, which is around 50 thousandths, a little more than twice as thick as the 26 gauge that we're using. So this just has a flange, so the car can't come off the front and it can't roll forward or back. So I think, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to go back to our shelf Isn't that thing cool? I want to go back to our shelf, and you can follow me over here. We're going to take the things off here. My dad's little baby plane, my dad's little baby clock, and the watch that I inherited. Put these in a good spot. Last part of the video. So what I want to do here is I want you to know that just because we made a bookshelf that way, there's no rule that says we can't install it this way. Dun, dun, dun. There you go. Now we have a tray that could be for also a bookshelf or a tray that you want to put things in. Like this. We could put that in there. So there you have it, a bookshelf. It can be installed right side up or upside down. It's your bookshelf. You decide which of those two is the right one for you. And in the meantime, let's see. Thanks for coming. That's a cool watch. And I'll see you in the next episode. Sheet metal is fun. Let me know what you guys think of this one. I'll see you in the next lesson.